Hello. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, we are here joined by Judith Jekyll. And if you don't already know about Judith, you will definitely know about her shortly because she recently competed in the Mongol Derby and she has agreed to come on here and tell us all about her experience. And I could not be more excited to hear about it because I mean, it is the most incredible athletic feat, and I think it's amazing. So, Judith, just to kind of get us started, would love to kind of set the table on your background and hear more about you. Do you mind just giving us a bit on where you're based right now, where you're originally from, and kind of your riding background? I know that's a lot of questions in one.
No, sure. So right now I live like about an hour from Melbourne, Geelong area, which is just where the Great Ocean Road starts in Australia. I moved here 1.5 years ago to study equine management in Geelong. Before that, I lived 15 years in Switzerland, like between Zurich and St. Gallen somewhere. I had a daycare center and worked equine assisted. So I was an equine assisted therapist. And before that, I lived in, like, I was born in Germany, grew up in Germany, had all my first riding lessons in Germany. And studied education.
That is really cool. And when you moved over to Australia, is it correct that you kind of have a background in racehorses and eventing? Is that true to say?
Yes, well, I do eventing on my own horses. I brought 2 horses with me from Germany to Australia. I do event on them. And I did a little bit of racehorse training before. Because of COVID, we sold everything July 2021 in Switzerland. Then Australia's border, they were still closed. So we spent some time in England, and I was lucky enough to ride in a jump racing yard for a while, which was amazing. And then just got many contacts through my studies. It's very big racehorse industry just where I live. And that's when I started doing a little bit of pre-training and track work as well.
Yeah, ever since we've like kind of started operating in Australia, it's been really cool to find out how big the racehorse community is there. Like it is wild. I thought it was big in the US, and then I hear about it in Australia, and it's like it's amazing. It's really cool to hear about. So Judith, I guess I mean the whole topic of this hour is the Mongol Derby. So for those of us who are listeners and haven't heard of the Mongol Derby before, do you mind just providing a bit of background on kind of what it is and what it's all about?
Yes, sure. So basically, they say it's the longest and toughest horse race in the world, which I say the longest. It's 1,000 kilometers. If you can go straight, you never can go straight, so it's longer than 1,000 kilometers. In the end, I rode about 1,300, a little bit more. And it just goes over like wherever, countryside in Mongolia. We left with a bus 6 hours out of Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital city of Mongolia. And then we were dropped at the start camp. And from there are 28 camps prepared, like 28 horse stations. Station 29 is the finish line. And all those stations are about between 30 and 40 kilometers apart. Again, like if you can go straight line. And that's where you change your horse. So you always ride 30 to 40 kilometers on one horse. Then you go into the next station, change your horse. The horses are vet checked in every single station. You stock up your food, your water, and then you go again. And if it works out, you're allowed to ride 7 to 7. So you start in the morning and you're allowed to ride till 7 p.m. Otherwise, you get a late riding penalty. So if it works out, you can stay in camps. You can sleep there. If not, like if it's just 7, then you have to stop wherever you are and sort out your camping and overnight.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that latter part that there was a chance that you would just be in the middle of the track somewhere overnight. Did that happen to you at all?
Yeah, twice. But like it was kind of planned. They really tell you when you leave your last station, which it totally depends on the horse. So it's hard to plan. It's some horses it takes you like 2.5 hours, like some even less. But usually I would plan like 2.5, 3 hours into the next station. If it's very hilly, it takes a bit longer. If you have a slow horse, it can take much longer. So it happened twice, but I started planning, let's say like 6:15, 6:30. You should really start and look where you want to stay. You have to have a suitable camping site for your horse. So you need to have water access and grass. Otherwise, like the organizers, they're coming, they're checking on you. And if it's not suitable, especially for your horse, then they remove you and you get a penalty.
Yeah. So you're going 30 to 40 kilometers between each stopping point, and
Yes.
at each, and then so how fast are you going across that 30 to 40 kilometers? Like, are you all out just like cantering? Like, how do you determine how quickly you're moving between the stopping points?
Well, I just try to just go with the horse. It's very hard to plan or to kind of do your thing because the horse decides. Like that's what I plan. And usually most of the horses they would just fly out for the first 10 kilometers, I would say. And if they wouldn't, I just try to push them a little. Let's say like the first 10 kilometers because they're fresh, they want to go. It's good to get away from the other horses, firstly, because I rode the whole race on my own. So it's good to get away from the other horses and just get them going. Um, and then in between it's if you have a fast horse, you can just kind of let them go for a bit longer. Usually, like some horses, they need a little break after like 10, 12 Ks. And then you trot a lot. So many horses are just much better with the trotting. Then I would just let them have a trot. And then like my little system I developed the whole time was like no more cantering 8 kilometers out of the next station. So I would only trot them. I give them always a little break, like 5 kilometers out of station. Water always if it's available on the way. Have them a pick of grass and then walk them the last 2.5 kilometers. Like my biggest goal was never getting a vet penalty. And that means the horse has to come in and drop the heart rate the first 30 minutes below 56 and like can't be dehydrated, can't be lame, like anything. They need to look good. And for me, that worked out very well. Never got a vet penalty, and was very proud of that.
That's pretty unheard of, is it not?
Yeah, I
To
think like
not get the vet penalties?
yeah, there were a couple of riders. So and they said it's great. It's great that it's kind of going into that way that riders really start caring about their horses. And I mean, first day in starting camp, the thing they're telling you, the organizers, the vets, the medics, everyone is horses before humans. Like you signed up for this race, the horses didn't. And I really like that aspect of it. Like that's why I'm doing it because I was really trying to, like, that was my challenge. Am I able to cope with these horses? Am I able to look after these horses and care well for these horses and always put the horse first?
I love that. I think that that's so important, and especially for a race like this that people come in from all over the world to put the horses welfare ahead of all else is just like that is the direction that we need to be heading in all aspects of riding. So I think that's so cool. One thing I don't know if we've mentioned yet, but Judith came in third, which it's like, I mean, it's unbelievable enough to finish the race, but to finish as one of the like top three people to come in at the end of it, I think is just unbelievable. What do you think kind of set you apart and like made that possible?
I still try and figure that out. I'm not sure. Well, I always said I was lucky the first day. Like the first day, I had three amazing horses. They were fast, like really fast. They wanted to go with me. And then they came always in on low heart rate. So that made me so quick. First camp, there were so many people. So we had altogether 42 people on the start line. The start is crazy. It was downhill. I was like, no, I just rather go a bit slow and stay on the side. But my horse had a different plan. So he kept going. He was overtaking every single horse. He settled after a while, which was great. And then I came into station and he was right on 56. That meant I could just like draw another horse and get going. And that the first day that brought me into camp 3 as the only rider. So I was ahead of everyone, which I did not expect. I arrived in that camp and I'm like, where are all the people? And of course that's helpful because you're already in the front. But it's day one. So many things happened to me in between. But I just tried always, again, put my horse first, no rushing. Like, I think when people started to rush and being very competitive, that's when accidents happen. And that costs so much more time. I mean, things happen to me, like, enough. But I still always tried, stay calm, think about your horse, and then just keep riding.
How are you managing like the horses before you get into the vet check? Are you yourself doing like a quick temp check to like, how are you making sure that you're not going to get in there and be like, oh man, this is not, or are you just doing it based off of like your intuition?
Yeah, totally my intuition. Like, I never got off the horse. Some people got off the horse and would walk into station. On day 2, I had a horse which was kind of pretty exhausted halfway. And I thought, I get off and walk him for a while. That wasn't a good idea because he tried to take off. Like, these horses handle them from the ground is a very, very different story. And like day 7, I completely lost a horse. So I had to realize that again. But from that day on, I decided I always stay on the horse. I'm not getting off. And if I get off in camps, I always ask the herder to hold the horse because when I got off the horse, my legs felt so tired. So I felt there's no strength left to hold this horse if he tries to take off. So that was kind of, my idea was always like, calm them down, give them a pick of graze. If it was a hot day, so I had like the camelback on my back, I would pour a little bit water over their necks and withers just to kind of keep them cool and just always let them have a drink. Like, let them have a drink brings their heart rate down so quickly. And then when I arrived in camp, like, gave them a quick wash. They were always like water provided. So I gave them a quick wash, let them have a drink. And usually I was pretty good. I had one very spooky horse and the heart rate went up because he was so scared. But the vets are amazing. They're all horse vets. They're all so calm. They come like with the stethoscope and just stay there for a while to get them used to it because the horses are not used to stethoscopes and vets and all the people around. But they would really work together with you and try and bring this heart rate down.
Yeah, and one thing that I didn't previously know about the Mongol Derby is just the Mongolian horses that you guys are riding they're like 12 to 14 hand. I don't want to use the word pony. They're like 12 to 14 hand pony horses. And they are, from the sounds of it, just based on what I've read and what I've heard from riders who have done it previously, they're like kind of feral. Like they're not like really, they're not trained in the same way that like the horses in your barn are trained. And so what I've heard is just like you can, depending on what horse you're handed at the different stopping points, can really determine how like the next 30 kilometers is going to go, because it's a mixed bag. Was that your experience, that like there was a wide range of the horse that you were sitting on?
Yes, definitely. And this year, so we were the first year we had to draw our horses. The years before, people were allowed to choose their horses themselves, but they changed that to even the race a bit more out, because like if you choose the front, people always like they go for the fast horses. And the herders are, of course, they're so proud of their horses and they're like racehorse. And then it's a professional racehorse and they're just they're just more used to it, and they're fit, and they're like, they want to go. So this year we had to draw a number, and you were allowed to redraw for obvious reasons, like if it's a very tall rider and tiny little horse, or you're just not comfortable at all with the horse, which is like, it can happen. I never changed the horse, so I got on with all the 29 horses I got given, which was like, really proud of that as well. And that's why I had a big range of very different horses. Like I said, first day started amazingly, 3 awesome horses. Like, I would take all of them. Second day, first horse was already like feral. He wasn't used to my saddlebag. He was bucking when I tried to get on. Herders, like, so a herder got on first. They're always like, they're really trying to help. They explained me about the horse as good as they could. And then the herder hauled him, let the lead rope go, and the horse was flying out of the station. I rode race horses before, but I felt like I've been never on something feeling that fast and that strong in the same time. It was, I couldn't breathe. Like, he was just going. And usually they started settling a bit and he was getting better, but when I tried to come back into canter, he would just go for another gallop. He wouldn't canter. And I had a fall with him. There was a marmot hole, and we hit that marmot hole. We had a full roll. I got stuck under the horse. I had to like pull my legs out. But then he settled. He was very kind. He was waiting for me. He was fine. So there was someone from the crew just close by, helped me get back on, and we had a little trot up, and he was fine. But that's the things what happens. So with the fast horses, they are great because you are fast. But if they're not listening, or if they don't have steering at all, it can get dangerous. And I know some people, they weren't as lucky, so they had a broken collarbone straight away, which would be so annoying. Like, day second and you're injured already. And then I had 2 stallions. They just didn't work with me, really. I always try to make friends the first few kilometers. Just let them go and not fighting. You can't fight with those horses. You can't force them to do something. You just can't try, okay, get a good relationship as soon as possible, and then they are going for you. And I think most horses, I was able to do that. I wasn't with those 2. We had kind of full bucking episodes in between. They didn't want to go anymore. They just full stop out of canter, bucking again. I mean, in the end, we made it in camp. So, of course, you feel pretty proud. Oh, I made it 40 kilometers with that horse. And they came in like low heart rate, very happy. So it wasn't a big issue for them. They just were like, what do you want from me? Like, you look so weird. The saddlebag feels weird. The saddle feels weird. Where are you going with me on my own? I don't know. Yeah, so it's interesting.
It is unbelievable. Somebody in chat, I can't see who it is, it said that they're dying at my facial expressions, but I am honestly just like, this is unbelievable. So Judith, the horses that you are riding, like the 29, you said 29?
Yeah, so it's 29 stations, yeah, and you have a different horse every station.
Are the 29 horses that you rode, are those the unique horses that you rode, or does anybody else use the same horse? Is there overlap in any of the horses?
No, so there are 1,500 horses prepared for this race. They're all registered, like the vets, they have their papers. All right, I think I'm back. So, and then you ride into the next station, and then that's it for the horse. So it won't brought back and used again. So at every horse line, there is enough horses for every rider who comes in. Yeah.
That's like a unique thing, because you would imagine that some of the my initial assumption would have been like, oh, you get into a station and somebody would be like, oh, watch out for that horse. Like, I just had a crazy ride. But if none of that's happening, like every horse you're getting on, like you have no idea what to expect.
Yes. So I was once I was bucked off straight away. So I got on the horse, and he bucked me off straight away. And then I was like, I'm not sure. But then the herder was, he is a very spooky horse. He is a great horse. So they kind of assured me he's a really good horse, but he's just so spooky and he just got scared of you. And I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. So I tried another time. If it's still not working, I want to redraw. But so the herders, like one of the herders came with another horse and ponied me out of camp. So we kind of gave him this basic, just made him a bit more comfortable, trotting camp, and then the herder left and I could go on. And it was one of my favorite horses. Like, he was amazing, and he's kind of totally changed in between my ride from being so scared and don't want to leave the other horses into, okay, let's go, let's do this. And that just felt, which was pretty cool. And I had another horse I got on, and he would like rear up and fell on the ground. And I was exhausted already because the horse was like the bucking one. So I was like, I'm not sure if I want to change this time. But again, the herders came up and he said he needs a very loose rein. He's very sensitive. And because I had the bucking one before, which like would always pull his head down, I was like, okay, well, that was my mistake. Yes, I grabbed the reins way too hard for that horse. Oh. Yeah, so I think most of the time it's about us, and that's what I loved about it. It's just about me trying to figure myself out, trying to work together with the horse. And that's every single day with the horses. And because they are not that well like trained or educated, or just not as domesticated as our horses, they're free overnight. There are no fences. They're like half wild horses. And that's why you can't force them. You can't just tell them we're doing this, because they're like, no, we're not. And that's what happened when I lost my horse. So when I camped out, I wanted to give him a graze in the morning. He decided to go, and I was like, all right, I had no chance to hold this horse. So he went, he left. I was lucky. My gear wasn't on already. So he kind of left, broke the bridle, lost it, and he back home, 25 kilometers. And I was there thinking, day 7, being in the lead, thinking that was it. Like, that was your race. Your horse is gone. What are you doing now? And then I started thinking, what are my options? So I could have had a carry back to the last stations by the organizers and then ride the whole leg again. But I didn't want to wait and waste time. So I grabbed all my gear and walked 10 kilometers into the next station through wetlands with my saddle on my back, and was expecting people just coming past me, but no one came in the end. So I kind of could keep my second place, which was great. Yeah, I lost like about 3 hours, and then was on the next horse 10:30 and rode 3 more stations that day.
That is, oh my gosh. So it took 3 hours to walk like 10 kilometers,
Yeah,
like 6 miles.
I think I walked like 2.5, and then I had to, because like my shoes were full of water, and I had to just put my gear out and have a little snack and fill up my water, all of that. And I left, I think 10:30 that station. Yeah, instead of usually would have left like 7:30.
Yeah. When you get to the stations, are they checking you at all, or is that totally up to you to decide if you're fit to keep going?
So what they did this year is there are medics around, or you could, if you feel like uncomfortable about something, you could always ask for the medic. I know former years that was penalized if you talk to a medic, but they don't want that anymore, which is like, that's good. You can just like have a quick chat to a medic. And I mean, the worst thing that happened to me was like cracked lips, pretty bad in between, but that was like the only thing. And then I just asked, like, could I have something for my lips? And they were like, yeah, sure. Like, they would help people, which is good. But yeah, usually they're checking on the horses, like they're very particular with that, but you are like responsible to look after yourself.
Wow. So there's a member in chat, and she's asking if you can describe the terrain and scenery that you were experiencing across the 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah, well, it was different. There were, when we started, there was so many hills. I was asking like, how many hills can a country have? Because I crossed so many hills. And at the start with the GPS and everything, I just tried to go straight line. So we had kind of a pink line, which was lead us into the next station. And if you go straight line, you just go over hills and hills and hills. And after a couple of days, I figured out maybe I should go sometimes around the hill and not always over it. Um, so it's just so many hills and mountains, and it's beautiful. The view is amazing. And there was one station where like it was kind of the area where Genghis Khan was born. And then they told us all like over in that mountains, they like he and his warriors, they would always hide when they come back. So that was awesome. Just like the whole history and the scenery. And then sometimes it was just like open like the open steppe, which was nice to ride. I really enjoyed that, and I liked the open land. And sometimes it was just wetlands. So especially the last few stations, like one station we had to cross a bridge like close to a village, and so there was a compulsory point because you couldn't cross the river. And then wetlands, there was so many, like many people struggled with that. There were falls, and Linda, who won the race, she got stuck in the bog, like just in front of the last station, in front of horse station 28. She had really trouble to get out of that bog. And that's why I think if you slow down and think first and just go after your pace, and that's what I tried, never think about the race, you're able to enjoy the whole scenery and everything. And usually you're pretty safe. And if you start like this, what I understand, like you are in a race, you are in a competition, and you just want to do well. But as soon as you start rushing, you forget about the whole scenery and about everything, and then you maybe forget about wetlands and wherever you are. And it's getting more difficult.
Yeah, you really have to, it sounds from the sounds of it, it seems like you really have to like stay in the moment and like not like don't let you've got to be like so focused, because the moment you like take your mind off of what's in front of
Yeah.
you and what you're kind of the terrain that you're dealing with and the horse that you're on, it's like, oh man, I just fell off or whatever it is. Like I can just imagine that's a long time to be spent where you're like so focused.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
and is it correct that you and like the top finishers came in on day 9? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And then, but like some people were still coming in on day 10. So it took some people a
Yes.
full day longer.
Yes. So you have the maximum 10 days. And I think in previous years, there were already people finishing day 8. So if you like could choose the horses, and you had an advantage if you're riding in the front group, so you were much faster. They said it was like the closest race ever. And we finished day 9 kind of, I think I finished around like 1:32 p.m., I guess. And there were still people coming in same time next day. So we were kind of, I think, like 24 hours ahead.
Wow. And there was, I think I counted, there was 43 starters. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think 42 or 43. Yeah.
And did everyone finish?
No. So as far as I know, I think 25 people finished in the competition mode of the race. And then there's like an adventure category. So if you have like just too much trouble in between, you're still able to keep riding, but the organizers might give you a carry forward. Like if you just lose your horse or your gear, like what happened to some people, like a friend of mine, she fell off, her horse took off and it came back, but without her saddlebag, which is just like the sleeping bag was in there, her rain jacket was in there, like everything was in there. Someone else's horse was like gone for, I don't know, like 2 days. So they found, eventually in the end they found everything, but he just had to kind of struggle around. Without all his gear. He got like new stirrups from someone, or like the organizers really try to help out, but it's just not your gear. So it makes it very hard to keep going in the race. So those people, they sometimes they get like a carry forward 1 or 2 stations, just kind of to stay still in the race, to have the whole experience, but they're just out of competition.
And what was the like weather like? Is it super hot, or what kind of temperatures or like weather were you dealing with along the way?
So we were really lucky. Weather in Mongolia can change from 35 degrees to like below 10 in minutes, basically. We had something like that. So we had start camp and had like a pre-racing day where we could like go for, I think it was 3 10-kilometer rides to get us set up. And we left everyone in t-shirts because it was so hot. And after, I don't know, like 2 hours, a hailstorm came in, and the weather changed within minutes. And there was a big hailstorm. It got so cold, and I was lucky because I was not far out of being back at start camp. But some people got so wet, and then it's just cold. And if you don't have your rain gear close, you're just starting to be cold, and just getting the risk of getting too cold. So the whole race, for me, I had rain on the last day. That was it, and 2 storms overnight. I know people in the back had more rain, and I just always carried my rain jacket around my waist, which was so annoying sometimes because it was so hot when I was riding and having this rain jacket. But I was like, nah, I'm not risking it going without my rain jacket. And then there's like the big storm and I get wet, and I don't want to keep going.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know the conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit, the temperatures she just referenced were -10 Celsius to 35 Celsius, which is 14 degrees Fahrenheit to like 95 degrees Fahrenheit, which, I mean, that is unheard of, that you could have swings of that degree in a single, like in a day, or even in a matter of a couple days. That's wild. So, Judith, you just mentioned your rain jacket around your waist, and I think it's super important to talk about the gear that you guys bring along with you and whatever you're provided. So, tell us a bit about kind of the weight restrictions that exist and what you brought with you, what you're carrying with you while you're riding. And we'll start there, and then we'll kind of go into the like attack and stuff.
All right. Yeah. So we were allowed to carry 5 kilos in our saddlebag, and the overall rider weight wasn't allowed to be more than 85 kilos. I didn't worry about the 85, but the 5 kilos in a saddlebag, like that's very tough. So you have to have weigh in just in the morning before we started the race. So you packed your saddlebag, and then they weigh it. And I was like, I think I had to repack like 3 or 4 times. And I was so annoyed already because I was like, this is not working. I don't know what else to take out, because like I only have the basic stuff and they still make me take out more stuff because I was like on 5.2 or something. And I was really worried about the food. So I had a couple of snacks in my saddlebag because I thought, I need to eat. I didn't want to lose weight at all. So in my saddlebag, there was my sleeping bag, and then just like a sleeping mat, like an isolating one, so you're not getting too cold from the ground. Then I had one shirt and 1 leggings just to be able to change in the evenings, to have fresh clothes. For sleeping, at least. And I had 1 spare riding pants and 1 pair of socks and a bit of underwear, not too much. Yeah, and like my toothbrush, my Yes, some toiletries, not much as well. Toilet paper was important because you didn't know if there is some. Um, and then like your basic medical kit, kind of like disinfection, some band-aids. Yeah, I think that was basically it. And like tablets to disinfect your water because they just told us. So they really try and take care and boil the water before we get it, but just to make sure you don't want to get any like stomach bugs or anything.
You fit all of everything that you just mentioned in under 5 kilograms?
Yes.
That doesn't seem possible. That is over the course of the 9 days, you're working with 2 pairs of riding pants and like one
Yes.
pair of sleeping. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And basically in the end I wore one riding pant because I figured out the other one isn't as good. I didn't have any rubs, I didn't have any blisters in the end. So I was lucky with my riding pants, and I changed the riding pants for one day, and that's when I lost my phone, which one had just a nice deep pocket and it worked, and I kept it in there to just make pictures in between. And with the other riding pant, I put my phone in and like it just flew off when I got home. So that was it. And I was back to my other riding pants, just felt much more comfortable in them. Just, I don't know why, but they worked well. And I was glad I had another pair of socks because when I had to walk, my socks got pretty wet. The shoes and chaps dried out very quick, but my socks didn't. So I was glad I had another pair.
Yeah. What day did you lose your phone? Like what day number?
Good question. I know it was between station 15 and 16, so it must be like day 5.
Yeah, like halfway through. So you didn't have a phone for the remainder of the ride?
Yeah, I mean my phone didn't have service or anything.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a prepaid card in it. I didn't have service anyway. It was just like I just took it to take some pictures and to listen to a bit of music at night, which was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun.
And what are you, so I want to jump into like the community aspect of this too, but I know there's just so much to learn about this. How are you like keeping track of your experience? Like, did you come back and write a bunch of notes about it, or how are you like gonna commemorate having done this?
I didn't write it down yet, but I think I probably should start doing that. I don't know. I know I have a very good memory about things, and because I was riding on my own the whole time, I don't know, I was thinking about it a lot, so maybe that's why it really got stuck in my head. I probably could tell you about every single horse I rode still. Yeah, and then at least you have the professional pictures, so the photographs and the Rich who had the camera, they were always around and they were recording everything. And then of course when you came home, or like when I had service and the phone again, you look up Facebook and Instagram, and there's like all these pictures and all the comments about you. That's really interesting. And then you just stay like, I'm still in contact with like 2-3 other people who did the Derby, so you still talk about it the whole time basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for like I would think that writing it all down and just like or I don't know, commemorating it somewhere so that 10 years from now you can be like just like remember all that, like these details are so important. So we got a question in chat about sleeping conditions, and this person was asking about sleeping in between the horse stations and what that was like. Can you describe what the sleeping situation was like, just all like across the board? Like where were you sleeping and how that all worked?
Yes, so I decided to not camp out on my own. There was like situation in between where there was like some creepy people around horse stations, and I just decided because I was riding on my own, I'm not staying out on my own. Linda, who won the race, she would sleep everywhere, so she slept in goat sheds on her own. She was comfortable with it. which was like fine. So she really deserved that win. I was staying with families, so they said we can just kind of walk up to a girl and try and explain with, like, I can't speak Mongolian at all, but just like really try and get in contact with those people and ask if you can stay for the night. And that's what I did twice. So I stayed with families, and they were amazing. That was like maybe the best nights. Like, the camps were great, but the families were just looking after you so good. Like the first family, she straight away called her daughter, and she's working in Ulaanbaatar. She talks English. So she's like, oh yes, I know about the Mongol Derby. And then she explained to her mom, and then they made dinner for me, and I could sleep on the couch, which was very nice. But in the end, that's when my horse took off. So I thought they have a safe space with their round pen. That was one reason why I stopped there. But in the morning, they brought all their sheep and goats into the round pen. So I had to take the horse out for grazing anyway. But I was like, that moment I was already, where should I resettle him? I don't know. I should have put hobbles on first, because they're always hobbled, but because I didn't want to cause any issues to the family, so I was like, yeah, I just take my horse out, that's fine. And then I was standing out there like, oh, that's not going to work. That was a big mistake. And the second night, which was my last night before I finished, it was like very mountain terrain, and I wasn't sure like if there are girls or not. I passed some girls before, but I thought maybe I have to go back all the way, and I stopped at the water spring, and then there was one girl just like up in the hills, and I walked up there, and there was a man with a kid coming on his motorbike, already down, kind of like they expected me, which was weird but nice. And he took so good care of my horse. It was a granddad with his grandson, and they're staying up there in the mountains waiting for the grandmother and the granddaughter bringing the sheep in a couple of days. So they were amazing. They put English TV on for me. They cooked dinner. He made breakfast in the morning. He helped me with the hobble, because I was so nervous losing my horse again on the last day. But he put hobbles on. He hauled the horse for me. We brought him down to give him water together. Like, he was with me and the horse the whole time. And that was like, I felt so comfortable staying with them. He gave me like a big coat so I could get changed under the coat. And like all these little things, he was, I think, like the nicest person ever. Yeah, that was really cool.
That is amazing. Like, that in and of itself, it could be like its own book. Like, that is such a cool once in a lifetime experience. So those were kind of interactions that you had with the local people that you connected with along the way. What was it like with the other riders? Like, did you go to the Derby completely alone? And along the way, how much are you interacting with the other riders or riding with the other riders? What was that like?
So I went completely on my own. I was messaging with one rider before. She lives in Australia as well, but she had a accident and she couldn't ride in the end, so we never met. I went there on my own. Then, of course, you meet up in Ulaanbaatar kind of on the first 2 days. You met with the riders, you just start talking with people, and then you're transported out into start camp, and there are 2 pre-racing days where you put yourself together in groups of 5. You stay in the GER together, so you get a bit of contact and you talk with those people, and that's where I made friends, but I never saw those people during the race. I told from the start, I just want to ride with my horse. It's hard to ride together with someone, and just if they're having a fast horse and you have the slow horse, and they need to wait, and the other way around, it's just not what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be me and the horse. And then I thought, well, it will just turn out on the way. You will meet people, and then it works with the horses, and then you ride together. That's what I thought. And I rode the first station with mainly 2 or 3 people together. But then because I came in on the heart rate of 56 and could go straight away, I left on my own completely. And then I met up with people at station 2 again. And we kind of left together, 2 of them like maybe a bit early. That's when I asked, because it was 5 p.m. already, and I was like, I'm not camping out on the first night on my own. So I was kind of, should we leave together? But they were clearly, no, we're not. So I'm like, okay, well, I leave anyway. I will sort myself out. And I was lucky enough to come into station 3, but that's why I was so surprised no one else was there, because there were 4 people leaving basically together, 2 ahead of me. But they had whatever issues, I don't know. And then that's when I kind of decided, okay, well, I just keep going, I guess. And it always worked out. I was riding on my own, and then I had just like a little incident in between. We were like a bigger group, I would say like 5 riders in the front, and we left all together in the morning. And then, I had to find out, people just got competitive and like not taking care of each other and the horses. And there was the point when I decided I just stay away from people. I don't want to ride together with anyone. Like, it's good to see people in camp, like at night, and talk to them. But I just stay away.
Yeah, I think that can be really smart, especially because you're not really alone. Like, you are with this horse, and as soon as you bring in other people into the equation, it just adds complexity. So I think that makes a lot of
Yes.
sense. What was it like? I mean, these you keep being like, I was surprised when I got to the next service station and there weren't these other people weren't there yet. How did you know like where you were was everyone not going the exact same way? How did you know where you were going and how to get there?
So we had the GPS, and we could put in the next station. So there was always like horse station 3 or 5 or whatever you need, or compulsory waypoints you had to put in. But then it was completely your decision where to go, like which way you are going. I mean, it happened twice to me when I planned just like the wrong way and went a totally wrong direction, and then had to find out I'm on the wrong way and then go back. And I mean, that happened to other people as well. And then there's always the choice of going over mountains or going around mountains, or stay on the road, or go just kind of across grassland, but then there are all the marmot holes. So there were many decisions. You could just do your own thing and do your own road. And I think like after day 4 or 5, I just was able to have a good mix. Kind of, I wasn't going over all the mountains and over the top of the mountains, especially. I kind of was able to find, I think, most of the time, a pretty good route. And that maybe sometimes when we left together or when people left ahead of me, but my navigation worked out well. I was just, coming into next station, being in the lead again. And never expected that.
Yeah, absolutely. That, I mean, yeah. So how did you, I mean, I guess this probably would have been a good place to start, but what made you decide to do this? Like, it is, I mean, just hearing about this for the last near hour, it is an incredible thing to undertake, and then to put your body through, and to like, and it's not only like a physical feat, but it's like a mental feat as well. What made you want to do this? And yeah, like what brought you to the Mongol Derby this year?
So when I moved to Australia to study equine management, I met one of my lecturers, and she's done it in 2017. And she's a racehorse trainer, and she talked a lot about it. And then I followed the last year's race, and then I was really like, oh, that's cool. And I'm not a like camping person or riding wild horses all the time or something. I'm very happy with like the race horses and my competition horses. But like the challenge of riding those horses, that made me so curious if I'm able to do that. And I was really worried about the nights and about where to stay. And but then I could ask her so many questions, and she just told me basically her experience about the race, and it sounded amazing. So I applied and I got a spot for this year. Yeah. And now I'm like, I enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would. I went there to ride horses, but in the end, I loved every minute of everything of this race. The food, the nights, the people, the horses, everything.
What were was there like highs of it? Like what when you look back on it, was there like a highlight of the whole experience? I mean, coming in third, I have to imagine like when you finish going through the finish line must have just been an unreal experience. But if you think of like highs and lows of the experience, what comes to mind?
Well, the highlight of my whole thing were the apple pancakes in station 13 for breakfast. That was really good. And then the day really when I lost the horse and I was able to keep going to ride 3 more stations. And I came in a bit late, so I had a bit of a riding penalty. But the first 30 minutes, they're not really bad penalized. So it's 2 minutes per late riding minute. So I was just like, okay, that's fine. And then when I came in that day, it was a hot day and a long day for me, especially. So they had cold Coke on the table, which was, I was like basically thinking about cold Coke the whole time. That just kind of come in, and then having the people really taking care of you. They didn't just provide food or drinks. They really try to make us feel comfortable with those little things, which is just like having a cold Coke on the table or having apple pancakes and coffee for breakfast. They really tried so hard to make us feel comfortable. They would cheer you up like every camp you come in tired. And then the people are there and the translators are there and they're like, you're such an inspiration. You're doing such a good job. Just those little things that just makes you always feel so good and want to keep going. In the end, the highlight for me, or like more worth than placing or the win, was really being able to never changing a horse and never getting a vet penalty. Like I was really, really proud of that I was able to achieve that over more than 1,000 kilometers. That was really cool. And then sure, the points were a bit like that. I was that one day like just a bit disappointed from people, or really thought, oh, that's going to be harder than you thought, because I just thought we are all together here riding 1,000 kilometers. Everyone tries to help each other. So there was a moment where I was like, okay, well, I just really have to rethink my whole plan. Yeah, it wasn't that bad in the end, but it was just that moment of kind of feeling very lonely. And then sure, when I lost my horse, I mean, it turned out so good, but that moment when I could just watch him taking off, and I was like, that was it, your race is over. That was tough.
I can only imagine what that would have felt like. And then walking that whole way with the saddle on your back and just being like, what am I doing here? Like, how did I end up here? That, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, like, I mean, the amount of like fitness required for this is immense. How did you prepare both like for that, for like yourself, your fitness aspect of it? And then was there anything outside of like of that you did for preparations? Like how did you kind of think about preparing for the whole experience?
Well, it's always hard to say, because I, like a couple of weeks before the race, I was always like, should I get worried that I'm not worried about really preparation? um, I'm used to ride many horses every day, so especially before the race, I had many client horses. So I was riding 8 to 9 horses every single day, different horses, very young horses, like either really young horses just from the breakers, or getting horses fit and ready for the racetrack, or my own horses. So I felt, with riding, I felt so prepared for it. I have a German riding pony, and she's a very good jumper, and she's a little bit crazy, but it turned out she was the best preparation for this race, because she's a bit like that. You can't force her to do something, you need to kind of develop a relationship first, and then. But so she was a really good preparation, and I didn't do. Honestly, I didn't have time to do much more. I felt pretty fit. I'm outside. I'm used to be outside all day, every single day. I'm used to work with horses every single day. I'm used to hard and long days, and I think that's kind of a good preparation to be used to that. Should have done more camping maybe, just to be more comfortable with that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I feel like that's like one of the few things you could probably kind of learn along the way is just how to make that work. So one thing that we haven't touched on, and I know we're almost here at the end of the hour, and this has been so incredible, Judith. Like, thank you so much for sharing this story. Like, I'm blown away by this experience that you were on. But I guess as far as preparation goes on that topic is the equipment that the saddle that you had to ride in for those 9 days. It's very, very different from a general saddle that you're riding in at home. Can you tell us not only about that saddle, but were you able to use the saddle did you have the saddle ahead of time to practice, or what was that like?
So the saddles are made especially for the Derby. So you have a bit of support at the front and at the back. It just makes you more comfortable to sit in. I think it turned out not helpful for some people. It just fit me, the saddle. I was lucky that it just worked for me. And I used my own stirrups and stirrup irons. I didn't use it before. They said already they have a couple of saddles they can send out, but it's hard to get them into Australia with all the regulations and everything. And I was like, I don't know, I won't have time to ride a lot in that saddle anyway. So I didn't bother about it and just dealt with it. Yeah, when I got it, and then the bridle, we got it from there as well. And it's a bit different. It's like their Mongolian bridles, but yeah, there wasn't a big thing.
Yeah, and I feel like every time I see a photo, I mean, it's probably largely due to the fact that these horses are 12 to 14 hands. Like they're small, but it always looks like the rider's stirrups are really long. Is that the case, or is it really just because of the size of the horse?
So I had to, like, the first leg I rode with my like normal stirrup length, and I had to make them like, I think, 3 holes longer. It was just uncomfortable riding the long way with the shorter stirrups. And I mean, my knees were maybe a little bit my weak point. I just could always feel my knees like after a couple of days, the longer I rode. So I was like, just felt much more comfortable in the longer stirrups. And I think that's what many people said. They just need to put the stirrups a bit longer. But of course, if they were like tall guys, they just look funny on the little horses. But they're so stocky and so strong, like they don't care about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, as you kind of look back on this experience, is it something, I mean, do riders ever do it again? Or how do you, if you can't do it again, would you recommend it to other people? Like, how do you kind of think about the whole experience in its entirety?
Yeah, so many people did it again. There were some very successful riders, they did it again. And then there's some riders, we had even 2 riders doing it again from the year before. Because they couldn't finish it, and I just want to finish it, which I like. That's very understandable. I said I would do it again just because of the riding and the horses, and I just loved it. But it's hard to get a better experience. I just love this experience so much, so it's kind of hard to go back and try it again. And it's just a big effort and so much money. So it's realistically, I won't do it again, but I would definitely recommend it. If someone is like comfortable around horses, loves the challenge, and just loves riding. I said I could just never get enough of the riding. That was the best thing ever, just to be on the horse the whole time. So I definitely recommend it. They always say it's life-changing, and at the start I thought like, I don't know, I'm pretty happy with my life. I don't know what I should change. But in the end, it is because you're just a different person after you finish this. Like, so much more open-minded. So I'm so much more comfortable, confident about my horsemanship skills, and it just kind of confirmed myself in many ways. Yeah.
That is so beautiful, man. Like that, it makes perfect sense that as you look at it, it's like you had this just like premier experience, and while it would be really cool to have that experience again, it's almost like you wouldn't be able to top it. Like you had just like it seems like everything, although there were like bumps, very big bumps
Yeah.
along the way, everything kind of turned out really well. It is truly, I mean, yeah, Krista put it in chat that it's remarkable, and it is remarkable. Judith, I mean, we're already done with this hour, and I'm sure that there's so much more we could learn about your experience. But thank you so much for coming here and sharing today. And it has been an absolute joy to hear about the story of your Mongol Derby experience.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was really good. It's really nice to talk about the Derby and to see people are into it. It's great.
Yeah, totally. I hope it inspires a listener to go and do a bit more research on it, and maybe go and do it next year, and we can have one of these every year with one of the riders from the Derby. That would be a huge success in my mind. And one thing I forgot to mention at the top of this hour. So I am here alone. Usually Jessa is here hosting with me as well. She is not here this week because she is getting married this week. And so I'm in Colorado where she is getting married, but I was like, you are off the hook. You are not working this week. So doing my best to keep her away from the computer. But I'm sure she will listen to this, and she's having a ton of FOMO because she was really excited to hear about your story. So on that note, I mean, thank you so much, Judith. Have a wonderful day, and we really, really, really enjoyed hearing about your ride.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed talking about it. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good one. Thank you guys all for listening. Talk to you later.